Welcome home, brave heroes and foolish guests, to the most terrifying mansion, castle that you've ever been invited to. This, finally, is a look at Dungeons & Dragons Castle Ravenloft board game. I'm reminded of my childhood. It's not a phase, Mom. I have discovered the darkness in the world, and the darkness is me. Castle Ravenloft is a D&D adventure system cooperative game, which means that the components and gameplay structure are very similar / compatible with the other adventure system games, including but not limited to The Legend of Drizzt, Wrath of a Shardalon, and Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage. My heart is black, just like my soul. Castle Ravenloft. We meet again. We've got the adventure book and the rule book for our literature, and then stuff is just kind of all over the place in the box because I have opened this and played it before. The neoprene mat and backdrop has nothing to do with the board game. I just thought it was nice, so we're keeping it laid out today. As we look at our integral components, the start tile, a whole stack of dungeon tiles, which get flipped and placed as you progress through the game by standing at the edge of a given shown tile. We've got lovely encounter tiles, item and adventure tiles. It's the same set of arms, I just got warm, so I took off the flannel. Our adventure treasure deck, that's new. Adventure treasure. Is that like the artifacts? These look like they're pretty serious things. We've got the dimensional shackles. Use this item during your hero phase instead of attacking. Choose one adjacent monster for the rest of the game. That monster takes 1 damage whenever it teleports. The Tome of Strahd. The torch. Yes, the torch. The icon of Ravenloft. The wooden stake. Feywalk amulet. The sun sword. The monster deck. We've got 1 card for every monster figurine that is in the box. So if you're going to combine games, you make sure you combine the monster deck and the miniatures. And a whole host of treasures, such as the necklace of fireballs. I love that one. Use this item during your hero phase instead of attacking. Yeah, no kidding. Attack each monster on a tile 1 tile away from you. Attack plus 5, damage 1. Necklace of fireballs. Something that I don't like, that there are so many things that just get discarded after you play them. Let me build my character. I don't want to have to hoard a bunch of stuff to come off as a threat, and then not hoard it because the dungeon monsters around me are clearly more of a threat than I am. We've got all of our HP tokens, healing surges, the status tiles such as immobilized, things that go around your player board. Then we do have tokens that represent specific monsters, such as Kobold Sorcerer, Werewolf, Howling Hag, and so on. Hey look, it's a flesh golem. A golem made of flesh. We had a bit of a debate a while back that really just ended in a sort of semantics agreement. At least I think it did. Another stack of dungeon tiles. Do you think Frankenstein's monster is a flesh golem? I said the classification of homunculus should exist, and that this is how we should classify the creature. We've got our sequence of play cards, of which there are 5, because this accommodates 1 to 5 players. But you should know, like all Dungeons & Dragons adventure system games, even if you're trying to play a big campaign and utilize all of the different rule books for your players to play across all the scenarios, thereby linking all the games together, not every number of players is supposed to be able to play every quest in the adventure book, which just seems like the weirdest thing. Like, this is not, if this is 10 quests, it's not 10 quests in order. It's like 5 quests that are for multiple players, 1 quest for a solo player, 2 quests for PvP. I mean, it's weird. They didn't have to do things like that. And then something I think is also odd is that they did not group these adventures together in any of these books such that it would make sense. Or I guess I should say they're supposed to make sense no matter the order you play them in, because the adventure book does specify, feel free to play the adventures in any order you like. After you play the solo adventure, escape the tomb, and then in adventure 2, find the icon of Ravenloft with a group of players. But like, there's another solo adventure that is, I think, adventure 7. Yeah, here we go. 1 hero, solo adventure. This one doesn't have any PvP in it like some of the other games do, so at least that simplifies things a little bit, and it provides a little more value to the overall game system. I say that because if you've got people over to play something that's Dungeons & Dragons adjacent, they're probably not playing PvP, or player versus player. Alright, next up we've got our encounter deck, which is the meat and potatoes of what this game throws at you for challenges alongside its monsters. Then we've got a few more monsters: Clack, the Kobold Sorcerer, the Howling Hag, the Young Vampire, the Flesh Golem, the Werewolf, and the Zombie Dragon. And we'll take a look at all of these. Their character boards aren't nearly as interesting, but I will say that they all come with their own monster AI, just like the monster deck does. Look, your Blazing Skeleton tactics are: if the Blazing Skeleton is within 1 tile of a hero, it attacks each hero on the closest hero's tile with a ball of fire. Otherwise, the Blazing Skeleton moves 1 tile towards the closest hero. Instructions get more complicated for these sort of mini-bosses slash bosses. Well, this is a level 5 villain, so it doesn't get much more boss than this. The Young Vampire activates at the start of each villain phase. If the Young Vampire is adjacent to the hero, it attacks that hero with claws and fangs. If the Young Vampire is within 1 tile of 2 or more heroes, it attacks each hero within 1 tile of it with a hypnotic gaze. If the Young Vampire is on a start tile, the active hero takes 1 damage. Otherwise, the Young Vampire moves 1 tile in the direction of its tile's triangle. Gravestorm the Draco Lich is the big bad miniature in this box. With 20 hit points and an AC of 14, it's a level 6 villain, and the opposite side of this card is Count Strahd von Zarovich, the Devil, to the villagers of Barovia. Strahd himself is in this box as a level 6 villain, and we're about to get into the more visual component now. I guess everything we've been doing up till now has been visual. However, now is the time to lay out the game. Look at that, it actually lines up perfectly with my battle mat back here. And it's kind of visually indistinct. You know what? I apologize for that. That's my bad. I'm sure some of these are supposed to be used for very specific quests, but we are just going to build out. If I can stop drawing corridors. Stop drawing corridors! Ah, the fated den. The workshop. I think this is the first one I've put together where you can actually quite easily get into combinations of tiles that start to get weird along the edges. Like right here, we have our 2 puzzle piece jigsaw cuts, and they are actually encroaching into the map itself. Kind of a given, and I'm actually surprised that I haven't encountered this so far. I know I'm putting these on wrong. You're supposed to have the arrow face the explorer, but you know what? Complain in the comments below. The Rotting Nook, the Dark Fountain, the Secret Stairway, Strahd's Crypt, the Crypt of Sergei von Zarovich, Sergei the Lonely Crypt, the Crypt of Artemis. It just keeps going with all of these crypts. Here's the King's Crypt, here's the Crypt of Barov and Ravenovia, here's Irina Kolyana's Crypt, Prince Auriel's. There's a lot of crypts. The Laboratory. For all the crypts, you'd think the laboratory would be a little bit more fancy. I don't know, there's so many crypts. And the laboratory has a single table. Don't ask me how this correlates. Ah, a chapel. Also quite underwhelming. The named locations are so you can encounter certain objectives in specific quests. Did I mix up my boxes? 1 second. There we go. And with everything out of the box, you can see that they actually did a pretty decent job of maximizing their box space. All the stuff up top would have stuff in it or overflows. It's not a bad use of box space. And every single one of the Adventure System games has this exact sort of sized insert, and all of the boxes are the same size. So it makes storage and restorage and superboxing all predictable things. I found the dimensional shackles. I also found Kavan. One of the complaints I have about the D&D Adventure System games, all the darn tokens and chits and counters. I mean, it's not like there's that much. Well, I take that back. There is a lot for what's in the box. These become an integral part of how you play your campaigns and your scenarios. And it's just, are we really going to be doing that much token searching to get things set up? What's the ideal way to store all of these so you can always go for the token that you need, the specific token or counter, efficiently with as little time spent as possible? Just makes me appreciate proxy pieces. Like, you probably could remove 10 of those tokens and just replace them with 1 question mark token and be like, take the question mark token and place it here and it now represents a thing. Whatever, it's time to look at our monsters. Typically, you have 3 of each common monster for cards and for miniatures, and that is always going to be exactly the amount you have. 3 cards because you have 3 miniatures. Each card is going to be for a specific miniature on the board. So what do we got first? Kobold Skirmisher. And the kobolds in this game are so delightfully tiny. They're so small. I think this is the exact size of the Reaper Bones kobold. Hold on. Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same scale. You could use these in the same game. The Reaper kobolds being heroic, 25 millimeter. That's right, 25. The difference being your D&D Adventure System miniatures are not heroic. We've got a rat swarm, and at my table we called these the beans. because it looks like just a bunch of beans. Like, it's very cute. When you look up at this thing, look down at it rather, no matter the context, it's very short. Look very, very closely. You can see all those tiny little rat heads, all those little ears back. It's cute, it's adorable, but it's nowhere near as dynamic and as threatening as the rat swarm that you get from, I think this is next level miniatures. It might be Reaper, but I think it's next level. And I forget. I could do a simple search, but I am lazy. You can even paint these up and, like, I don't know, make them make more sense. Beans, not beans. You did your best, WizKids. You did your best. You're fine. All right, at this point, all of the beans are here. We've got a right barbecue going on. Time now for the Wraith. This one's got Death Shriek. And here is our Wraith. Raising hand. Kind of making me out to be a liar because you can't get more heroic scale than this. This guy's hand is huge. He's kind of short, too. Short little Wraith. Not very tall, not very imposing. You can kind of make out the details of a very disgruntled, scary face. I love the translucency in this mini. Here's our 3 Wraiths. We'll just position them over at the summoning circle. This is not how you would normally encounter enemies in this game. It is not representative of the rules in any way whatsoever. Next, we have the ghouls, who are part of the undead. And their color scheme is back to being this red, this deep red. They are chewing on an arm as they stalk through the dungeon. I like these guys a lot. I think that they are a really cool design. The miniature reminds me of old school Parker D&D. Just in case you ever forget what miniature you're looking at, the names are all stamped on the bottom as they should be, instead of just like part numbers. Next up, the spider, and the spider is pretty terrifying. I actually consider this to be a very threatening pose. This is a scary miniature. It's unsettling when it goes onto the board. You think, oh, my hero is in danger, rather than, oh, my hero needs to go and crush that monster and get the experience. I particularly really appreciate how the artwork always matches the pose of the miniature. The sculpt and the artwork matching are great. This is your Gothic horror expansion, so it tracks that all of our enemies thus far really rely on this sort of Gothic horror narrative in terms of their design. Next up, we have the Humble Wolf. And finally, this is not a wolf that is like leaping. It's not a wolf that needs to take up 2 squares. This wolf is actually stalking. This is a very natural pose for a wolf to have while it is circling its prey. If it's just one wolf, if it is 3 wolves and they're all doing this, that makes sense. And although the sculpt itself is not one that I'm super fond of because it's a bit small and a bit cramped, and also it's really difficult to tell that that's a wolf, and I don't know what's going on with the tail there, it does rank highly for its pose. Good job, sculptor, on that pose. Next time, let's sculpt a wolf. You know, I talk the smack like I could do any better. I can't sculpt anything. What do I know? Let's get into our zombies next. I like these guys. They look like they're dancing in a thriller video. That seems to be the case with pretty much any zombie miniature though. The zombie miniatures from classic HeroQuest are just like shambling, carrying huge machetes and the like, so they might be an exception. I like these guys though. I like the dynamic. Big fan, big fan. Next up, we've got skeletons. Honestly, love a good skeleton. They're the backbone of any good RPG. They can be played horrific enough to chill you to the bone, or they can tickle your funny bone with a good ribbing. There's nothing wrong with this sculpt, the scale, none of it. It's just I only have one bone to pick, and that's there's not enough of them. There should be 8 skeletons. You should have variations of the skeletons. Skeletons drawing back bows. Skeleton berserkers. Yeah, never mind. Next up is another horror/gothic fantasy monster, the gargoyle. I tell you what, they really nailed it with the theme here. They really went for every single trope, and they brought it. Gargoyles here are very strange looking. This is a weird sculpt. He just has like a very severe underbite, like somebody took his jaw and pulled it up over his top lip to shut him up. He was talking too much one day, and Strahd was like, I can't stand it. I can't Strahd it anymore. You need to be quiet. Always with the gargoyles yapping in my ears. I am trying to suck blood in peace. I'm not sure what I'm doing with that. It might be like Italian, Romanian. And then something a little bit more proprietary, something you don't see as often, the blazing skeletons. These skeletons are just on fire. They are walking around the castle, getting ready for legitimately a Hadouken, 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 Hadouken. That's how you play Street Fighter, right? More like a Kamehameha. That's the joke that's going to be made every single time you pull this guy out, just so you're aware. And if you've played Castle Ravenloft, then, well, you already know. That's it for the common enemies. I now want to get into the special enemies. But before we do that, we're going to get into the heroes, because every single D&D WizKids game has its own assortment of heroes. This time we've got Thorgrim, the dwarf cleric, Kat, the human rogue, Alyssa, the human ranger, Imeril, the Eladrin wizard, and Arjan, the dragonborn fighter. Easily mix and matchable with any of the other heroes from any of the other games. We have their first level stats on one side, their second level stats on the other side of their card. And we're going to see if their artwork matches. They're a little bit better than the last game we looked at. Arjan, the dragonborn fighter. You are a mighty warrior born to a clan of draconic humanoids. You have never lost a battle, and you have come to drive evil out of the ruins of Castle Ravenloft. Hey, you know what? He looks pretty cool. I like his pose. He's a bit leaned back. Lean back. We probably need to do the hot water trick to bend him back into place. Or maybe he's supposed to be leaned just a little bit because he's rearing back, getting ready to strike with his fists, despite the large axe that he is wielding. For first level, we can select Dragon's Breath, 1 fighter utility power, 2 fighter at-will powers, and 1 fighter daily power. And these cards are how you build your character. So what's pretty cool about this system, and I use this kind of unofficially as a rule, the cards don't reference the name of the character that you're playing, they reference the class. And if you have multiple games in this series, you will eventually come across that class again. Like there's a dwarf fighter in another box. Well, you could easily take the dwarf fighter cards, despite the fact that they have different backing that represents the art for that separate character, and just say these are fighter powers. You know, you have now choices for more utility, daily, and at-will powers. And I think that that's really cool. At least that's what I would allow at my table should you grow to an advanced level. Your at-will powers are the way that you do your attack actions on your turn, and the fact that you have 2 means that you will be ready for different circumstances to arise. You'll be ready to handle things slightly different ways. Cleave and Trapping Strike here are different attacks. They are both different at-will powers for the fighter. Your utility powers, well, the utility powers and the daily powers are all use once and then you flip the card over. But we will continue on with our hero overview. Here we have Thorgrim, the dwarf cleric, and yeah, another instance of the sculpt not matching the card art. It's just the darndest thing. I mean, I don't doubt that he's a cleric. He's dressed as a cleric and all that, but that's just not how he looks exactly on his card. On his card, he is sporting multiple long beards and hairs and such, and on his miniature, he just has the one coming out of his chin. He doesn't have the helmet that he's got in his art. It's fine, I'm not complaining, it's just a bizarre situation. His powers include Bless and Consecrated Ground, Beacon of Hope, Hallowed Advance, Lance of Faith, Healing Word, Healing Strike, Divine Flare, Shield of Faith, and Flame Strike. You're not going to be able to use all of these. You'll be able to select from any of these and bring them into your scenario until you level up, and then you'll be able to slowly add more into your loadout. And again, if you're playing at my table and we've got multiple cleric cards from different characters, I'll allow you to select from those other cards because that's going to contribute to your playstyle. All right, the one that I would probably select based on the art alone is Alyssa, the human ranger. Plus, I just really love rangers in these games. But yeah, her sculpt is way different. Again, this is not a ranger. This is a person who is like, she's dual wielding swords. She is a mercenary. She is a close range fighter in the 3D world. And yeah, it's the correct miniature. Alyssa, human ranger, just as the base says. So strange. I'll put her here where she'll be close to the wolves. Actually, I guess I'll have the wolves encircling her, so she's in danger for being so different looking from her card art. And also looking different than the wolves. They don't like anything that looks different from them. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. She has Yield Ground, Unbalancing Parry, Careful Attack, Twin Shot. Twin Shot, you fire 2 arrows in the space of a breath. More like she throws her 2 swords. Split the Tree, Bounding Attack, Crucial Aid, Hit and Run, Attacks on the Run, and Hunter's Shot. Next up is Imeril, the Eladrin Wizard. And I don't know, It looks pretty human to me. I suppose there's elements of high elf in those cheekbones, but what's an Eladrin? At least he does look like a wizard. He's getting ready to hurl a fireball, which is a time-honored classic. Fable! Scorching Burst, Freezing Cloud, Magic Missile, Fireball, Illusionary Crowd, Dispel Magic, Thunder Wave, Lightning Bolt, Shield, and Fey Step. We'll put him here getting ready to roast the spiders who are waiting in front of the door. Now we have Kat, the human rogue, and you know, she's not too far off from her art. Her hair is quite different. Other than that, it's probably fine. She does look like she's a bit more than in her art, which is not a complaint. Again, just an observation. She's a trap expert. Finding and disabling traps, gains a +5 bonus to rolls to disable traps. That's very nice. She's going to disable the skeleton trap over here, although she's a bit too late. They've already activated. Her rogue loadout includes Riposte Strike, Backstab, Stealth, Dagger Barrage, Deep Cut, Sneak Attack, Snipe Shot, Deft Strike, Great Leap, and Spring Away. And now it's time for the monsters to even out the odds here. The Flesh Golem, a level 5 villain that actually comes painted with my copy. He's not painted by default. This is a used copy. I did not attempt to paint him. This is probably a better paint job than I could do anyway at my current level. So, appreciated. I don't mind the color scheme at all. Probably would have kept him white. Might wash all that off just because I like my undeads to be represented by white. Clack, the kobold sorcerer, and here he is. He's a bit small, which is fine because we talked about the smallness of kobolds. So, you know, he's probably going to work on keeping you away from him. He does teleport, that's part of his moveset, so he'll just be like near the golem. Next up is the werewolf. Matches the pose so closely. Basically, the hand position is the only thing that's different. This is, by the looks of things, a female werewolf, which you don't see very often. This is supposed to be a level 5 monster, so very threatening, but is not a very large monster, and in fact, the scale doesn't make her seem all that horrifying either. But it's okay. She's gonna be over here eating the rats. The Howling Hag. This is actually one of my favorites because she's comical. She's howling. Look at her. Ah! She should have used Preparation H. No, I do like the sculpt though. It conveys the horrific feel of what's going on in this manor, and all of her details are pretty crisp. Her pose is really cool. She's got some exaggerated fingers, so kind of playing into that heroic scale just a little bit. Not there as much as I would like. Her pose is a little bit goofy, but it's also entertaining. It's fun to see. It's a fun sculpt. We have the zombie dragon. Here's the zombie dragon. That's it. Zombie dragon. Zombie dragon. Zombie dragon. White because it's undead, zombie because it's dragon, dragon because it's zombie. I don't know what you want from me. It's an undead dragon and it's pretty small, but don't worry, that's not really the big bad of all of this. That's a level 5 villain. We're looking at the young vampire next, and unfortunately, the young vampire has very short arms. Maybe when he's a full-grown vampire, his arms will get longer. I don't mean to do this again, but since they're right here, and since the sculpt is right here, I'm going to compare this with a Reaper, another Reaper sculpt. This is supposed to be 25mm, but it outweighs and outclasses the young vampire sculpt on almost every account. The Reaper vampire doesn't look young per se. It's got a very Count Dracula-esque feel to it. But if we compare both of these to the Strahd artwork on the cover of the game, guess which one I think looks more like Strahd? I don't know why some folks can't get the arms right. I mean, this, due to the pose from the back, it almost looks like the arm is long enough, but sorry. I should shut up about all that. He's got a big sword. I like the sword. The thing I don't like, though, the other thing that I don't like, is that Count Strahd von Zarovich is the big bad in this game, one of the two big bads, and you have to use the same mini for him. So this is both the young vampire and Strahd himself, but that's okay because we've got one more miniature that's more of a maximature, and that is Gravestorm the Draco Lich. This is not a zombie dragon. This is a giant undead draconic thing, which I guess would qualify as a zombie dragon or a skeleton dragon or something, but it's much, much bigger than our zombie dragon from before. Yeah, substantially so. And this thing has real table presence when you pull it out and have it comb the hallways, stalking for its next victim. Its next victim could be the rats, it could be the kobolds, it could be the flesh golem, it could be Strahd, but it's going to eat something. Don't get in its way. And that, more or less, is Castle Ravenloft. Your adventure book is pretty minimalistic, just kind of telling you how to set this up and then what the objectives are. So when you start uncovering tiles, if you happen to uncover the correct tile for the special adventure rules, you'll start progressing in that adventure. Adventure 7 is called Adventure Impossible, which I think is pretty funny, but it starts out like this, which is pretty much as complex as it gets, and then each of the tiles in the layer stack corresponds to one of the villains allied with Strahd. When you place the tiles, instead of placing a monster, you add the villain associated with the tile, so the Howling Hag, the Werewolf, the Kobold Sorcerer, the Zombie Dragon, Flesh Golem. There are no Healing Surge tokens. The heroes win the adventure by defeating 3 of Strahd's greatest allies. The fewer heroes you need to use to win, the greater your victory, which doesn't really, that doesn't make sense. It's just like, but the better you do, the more we'll celebrate your win. They don't really give you a smart measure for that. Castle Ravenloft. I told you it wasn't just a phase, Mom. This uses all of the monsters that you should have if you're going to do a gothic horror campaign. I mean, everybody's here. The gargoyles, the skeletons, wolves, spiders, rats. You've even got some kobolds guest starring. Wraiths, ghouls, blazing skeletons. I really appreciate the myriad of enemies assortment here, and this is a must-have game if you are a fan of Wrath of Ashardalon or Legend of Drizzt. Please go check those unboxing/presentation videos out if you'd like to see more of this content, and if you made it this far, you must have liked the video, so I encourage you to go check out my Patreon or become a YouTube member. If not, that's totally fine, but do subscribe and comment what you thought about this stuff down below, please. I will see you in the next exciting adventure, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye for now, brave heroes.